love, light, peace, and abundance. It is I, Queen Essence, back for another episode of Poetry Unraveled. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And if you are returning, hey, welcome back. If you haven't already, I encourage you to get you a beverage of choice. I have some ginger tea tonight. And it's kind of special too because it's tea that my son sent me from Korea. So I'm trying it for the first time, and it tastes super healthy, and it doesn't have any added sweetener in it. So I'm on my health track, getting my body right, treating me right, loving on me. So if you haven't already gotten your drink, go ahead and get your drink, and let's dive right into it. As you can see, I don't have my headphones on today, so I'm really open. I'm really open, really willing that the volume is sufficient. I do have it all the way up, so hopefully it's clear. And hopefully my internet will behave and it won't be too glitchy today. It looks clear on my end right now, although I don't have all the bars. However, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and put our will out. So for today, I have an idea in mind that I wanted to speak to you all about. I'm just getting my phone together because I definitely forgot to put on a do not disturb. Okay, so we're all set. All right, so this idea that I want to dive into, unravel, and then tie it into poetry has to do with our self development journey, right? So I was thinking the other day about the importance of the statement that we can only meet people at the depth that we've met ourselves, right? And I was exploring that from another perspective. However, the overall idea of it is, in order for you to truly get to know and understand someone else, you have to get to know and understand yourself. And I feel like the way that society is set up, the way the structures and the systems is aligned, it makes it challenging for us to really get to know ourselves. I mean, from the time that we start school, we're being fed all of these ideas, right? Concerning what's important, what has value, what we should pursue in terms of um, employment or being an adult, what that's going to look like. And even with all of that, there's still so much that's missed because I'm just thinking about how, when I was a child, the reality of what adulting really is was not really discussed. Like, it's really a sham because you spend a lot of your adult time giving your time away to someone else for the exchange of finances that's supposed to cause you to be able to have a comfortable existence. And in reality, for a lot of us, it's not, right? It's like the sacrifice for your time is feeling drained and tired and having to do things and be in spaces that you'd rather not be and do. So, in exploring the idea of meeting others at the depth that you met yourself, I explored it, and I'm thinking like we really got to go. Excuse me, we really got to go back to the beginning because many of us don't even know what it means to know ourselves, right? Like, we know ourselves as a result of something, as a result of situations and circumstances and experiences and how they've shaped us. Or we know ourselves as a result of the lens that the structure and system has given to us, or through the lens of others, what others have told us about who we are, right? However, in actuality, nobody knows us if we don't know ourselves, right? They may see glimpses of who we are, the potential of who we are. However, to really know the essence of us, they don't know because we don't know, right? So this leads me to this idea. Um, it is important that we remember, right? Like, we remember the things that lit us up. We remember the dreams, the visions, the goals that we had when we were younger. We remember the experiences that brought us joy and fulfillment, because in those are seeds, they're glimpses, they are pieces to the puzzle for us to discover who we really are. And everybody may not pursue this path, right? And it's my will that everybody does. However, being realistic, this is not something that's important to everybody, because some people have found success in the life that they live through the processes and the steps that they've taken. So they don't see a need um, or a value to explore anything outside of that. So this is, I'm clear, not going to be for everybody. However, it is my will that everybody be able to receive something of value that can add to them as they continue to journey on. So, okay, so and once you start to explore the different ideas that resonate with you, the things that bring you joy or had brought you joy in the past, right? Now you have to connect that to the current version of yourself, the current expression that you are. Because now you have these different experiences that you've been through, right? As a result of being here on earth, like you've grown up, now you're an adult, and you have had different relationships, different friendships, different experiences, jobs, perhaps you traveled, just a variety of things now that you are an adult or of age. However, in each of those experiences, there is something that was gained or an effect that was had. So it's important for us to be able to distinguish and determine what are the effects that have impacted us as a result of these experiences. And when we really start to unpack that, we realize that we have taken on quite a bit that's not naturally us, right? Like it's not a part of who we truly are from our essence. It's a part of who we present to the world. And most of us don't realize that we have the power to acknowledge that and then release it, right? Send it back to wherever it came from. Once you realize, like, this is not me and I no longer want to accept this, then you can release it and send it back to where it came from. And oftentimes, it comes from others or experiences, as I mentioned. However, energetically, you can release it. And in that release, you make space for the discovery of who you really are. And it is here where we can incorporate poetry, right? Poetry is such a potent tool that can be utilized in our self development journey and our self awareness, right? You can start by simply just writing your thoughts down. You can simply start by writing your feelings down. And if you don't have any thoughts or you don't have any feelings at the time, you can still pick up the pen and just call it free writing and see what comes up and comes out. You'll be surprised the things that come to the surface by just picking up the pen and just starting to write. Now, as you continue to do this, right, you may find yourself revealing to yourself parts of self that you forgot. You may reveal to yourself parts of your experience in your journey that you have pushed so far back, right? Or you had buried so deep that you didn't consciously remember it until it was triggered. And it is in these moments that you are able to see a glimpse of yourself, right? Because when the experiences were unpleasant, you're able to discover your strength, your resilience, your trust, right? Your unwavering dedication to continuing to move forward. If it is heartbreak, right? Let's say you uncover an experience where you um, were hurt, right? And you talking it out, you realize, or writing it out, right? You realize the love that you possess, the love and the capacity that you have to give love, to share love. And you may realize that that love that you was giving out so freely, you skipped a step in giving it to yourself. So now you can rectify that, right? By recognizing yourself and the necessity for self to be loved, not by others, but by you, right? And it is in this divine journey that the unfolding of who you are becomes more aware to you. And as it becomes aware to you, it also becomes aware to others as well, because now you're starting to radiate and reflect outward, right? Because you're becoming who you've always been. And it just wasn't time for the world to see, or for you to see for that matter. Although I'm sure that there's been some inclination all along of who you are or who you are destined to be. However, you just didn't know how to fully express it or how to fully show up in the fullness of your authenticity. And that's another thing, right? Excuse me, this hair. Another thing is authenticity, right? To show up in your authenticity is a clear indicator that you are um, the closest you've ever been to being who you are. And I don't mean authenticity like, you know how some people say, I am who I am, that's just how I am. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in those moments where someone may have offended you or hurt your feelings. And instead of, protecting yourself or guarding yourself in a manner where you shut down, you actually speak up for yourself and you express, that hurt my feelings. Excuse me, that hurt my feelings. Or, I didn't really like when you said that. Advocating for yourself is an expression of showing up in your authenticity, and it being an indicator that you are closer than you've ever been, right? To to the knowing, to the being, to the becoming of who you are from your essence. And this is important, right? Because in order for us to truly be successful to the magnitude that is available for us, we have to be in tune and in touch with who we are and um, what we came here to do, right? Who we came here to be. And poetry is like a mirror, it's like a reflection to us of who we are and where we're at the point of our journey when we're writing. And it can also serve as a foreshadowing, because I've written several poems where it had one meaning at the time that I wrote it. However, then when I go back and I read it again, I'm like, oh my God, like it also resonates perfectly with where I'm at right now. And that is such a beautiful experience to have, because it's like there is a continuous unfolding, right? It's a continuous unfolding of you elevating and growing and becoming more and more of who you are. I was also exploring the idea of boundaries, right? And the value that they offer. So, one moment. So, when I was exploring boundaries, I was exploring it from the standpoint of I have boundaries in place to protect what I'm cultivating within myself, right? The work that I'm doing, the healing that I'm doing, the nurturing, the loving that I am giving to myself has to be protected from others that don't see the same value in me that I see in me, and circumstances, situations, places, and all that. However, first, it is like a self preservation expression, right? Where I am cultivating this. I am responsible for me. I love me. So I'm going to do what's necessary to protect that. Then, as an extension of that, it also keeps out frequencies and energies that are not in alignment with how I view myself and how I value myself. So it works as a twofold idea. However, first and foremost, it is to protect what we are cultivating within ourselves. And I do realize that some people are not cultivating within themselves at this time. However, they still have boundaries, right? They have boundaries to keep things out versus protecting what's inside. And I thought it was a very powerful expression to think of boundaries as a means to protect the value that we see within ourselves, right? Because it doesn't have anything to do with other people. It has to do with the law of self preservation, which is a universal law, right? We go into motion to protect ourselves, to preserve ourselves. And when we are diving deep, right, and getting to know the reality of who we are, so that we can then show up in the world as who we really are, and then attract others that resonate at deeper levels as well, then this is the boundaries showing us the reward and benefit, if that makes sense, right? So we put the boundaries in place because we're going on this excavation, right? We're going to dive deep, and we're in a space where we're unraveling and we're untangling, and we're resurrecting parts of ourselves that had to lay dormant. Now these are quote unquote new to us because it's been some time since we expressed them. So these expressions of ourselves, this awareness of ourselves, needs a safe space to be able to grow, to be cultivated, to evolve, to heal, um, to come to the surface, right? To break through the ground, to actually bloom. So we have to create a space to cultivate that, to protect that, to love on that, to nurture that. It reminds me of like how when people have gardens, particularly in their yard, or anywhere where animals may be able to get in, right? They put the fence up to protect the process of the seed sprouting. And as a result of that, it keeps out, predators. So this, when it's explored and looked at from this way, I feel like it's really going to assist many of us that's on this journey. And it'll be from a place of power, right? Instead of like fear of like keeping things and people out, excuse me, or lower vibrations. It'll be from a position of power to maintain a frequency and vibration that cultivates what it is that you are creating or co-creating or manifesting or birthing, for that matter. um so yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was able to explore it and connect poetry to it because, again, poetry serves as a mirror. So when you're able to get your thoughts and your feelings out on paper or just in a tangible sense, so that you can explore them, read them back, feel them, remember them, really tap into the energy, um, it helps expedite your growth, is what I've been able to bear witness to. I feel like the potency of it and the vulnerability in it and the opportunity to show up in full authenticity is like a superpower. It's like it kind of makes me think. So I think superheroes, right? And I'm thinking about Captain America and how Captain America has the shield, right? And Thor with the what is that thing called? I don't know. The hammer, the Thor hammer, right? It's like it serves as an addition to the powers and the gifts that you already have. However, it's such a powerful enhancement as well. Hopefully that example made sense. It makes sense in my head. Hopefully it makes sense to you. Hopefully you follow the rhythm of thought that I got going on. Um, However, yes, I understand that, there's different forms of creativity, right? And everybody doesn't resonate with the same. And I'm not saying you even gotta, become like this full-time poet, or, you don't even have to call yourself a poet. However, it is a tool, right? And I spoke briefly on the last episode about the power of writing things down, right? Man, Writing things down is so powerful. It is so powerful for multiple reasons. However, the one that's resonating with me right now is the bringing it into fruition from the unseen to the reality so that it can be seen, right? So the thoughts or the blockages that we have from the things that we've experienced in childhood and throughout life are unseen, right? They are buried in our subconscious mind and they need to be brought to the surface. And in writing down whatever your thoughts and your feelings are, or you actually write a poem or poetry, it is bringing that which is unseen to the scene, right? And poetry did that. Like poetry is a tool that did that. So it willfully, like I said, willfully this is landing because it's my intention to offer tangible tools that will assist us in our growth and development to reaching the highest pinnacle that's available to us as a result of us pursuing living in our divine purpose, right? And poetry, unraveling poetry, is a tool that can be utilized to support us as we grow and evolve and come more into the awareness of ourselves while going through the process of healing, and digging deep to remember. It's all a process of remembering who we are. Um, Remembering the things that affected us, the things that altered our personality, that altered how we showed up in the world. And a lot of it stemmed from the necessity to protect our childlike self when we were younger, navigating under the control of adults that had to make decisions for us, doing the best that they could. Right. They definitely did the best that they could with the level of understanding that they had. And most of us, not all of us, but most of us had adults in our lives that really considered what would be best for us. And they did what they thought was best for us. Now, as a child, we had a completely different experience, right? Pertaining to the decisions that were made. And we didn't always see them as being best, and a lot of times they damn sure didn't feel like the best. And we have to reconcile that, right? We have to reconcile the feelings that we had, our perspective that we had as children pertaining to the decisions that was made that affected us, that we were helpless to be able to shift or change because they were the adults and we were the children. And there's several ways that that can be done. Um, However, it all stems with elevating and broadening our understanding based on the perspective that we had, right? With having so many experiences in the world, and perhaps some of us have had our own children. It's highly probable that we've gotten to the point where we understand more clearly as the adult version of ourselves why the adults in our lives made the decisions that they made. However, it does not lessen, negate, or change the thoughts and experiences that we had as the child. So, our inner child needs to be validated for what he or she feels, thinks, or experience from that childlike perspective. So poetry also is an avenue for us to tap into that. I have a poem that I wrote speaking to my inner child, and it was very liberating to allow her the space to speak and feel her feels, right? And I feel myself getting a little emotional because um, prior to me writing that poem, I hadn't even had thoughts um, in that clear way about the experience that I wrote about. They were like fragmented. However, once I got that poem out, um, she was really able to heal and release the pain of that experience, and then it was able to merge with the adult understanding that I have and the more spiritual and elevated understanding that I have of us being on this journey. So it is my will that you feel the same support. You experience the same support along your journey. If you are one that is needing to heal some things that are deep within. Um, so yeah, that's what I have. That's what I have. I have a poem as usual. Um, it's my will that what has been shared up until this point, um, it hits, it lands, it resonates. Just to do a little brief recap, it is important and it is of value for us to meet ourselves at the depths of who we are so that we can also meet others at the depths of who they are. And it is when we meet ourselves, then we can truly show up in the world in our full authenticity and attract those that vibrate in a similar frequency. And us putting boundaries in place is not necessarily the first reason to keep people out. We have more power when we set boundaries to protect what we're creating and cultivating within ourselves and within our own world to maintain the peace and love that we're cultivating, amongst the other things as well. And poetry is a beautiful tool to be able to assist and support us as we pursue that path and journey. So I have this poem. Um, it doesn't have a title at this time. Um, However, I'm going to share this and hopefully it gives a clear example of what it is that I'm referring to. All right. I woke up one day to find, I woke up one day to find I was living in someone else's dreams. Looking in the mirror was a reflection of me that I could no longer be. She has served her purpose, and to her, and for that I pay homage. It was then and there I made myself a promise. I would go deep within and rescue the girl who did her best to swim through the currents of change, releasing all blame to erect the phoenix as the flame that would light the path amidst the darkness, having no fear. Seeing those cracks and crevices, I've been there. I've reached lows I could have never imagined, all the while knowing for greater I was destined. To love like I do, to give so freely, see that couldn't be for nothing. So I looked beyond the physical, and when things got tough, I kept on trucking. To find a gift I had forgotten, a tool I used to pull her out. And the more I wrote, her voice, it began to shout. Shedding layers of the old, seeds planted began to sprout, putting pieces into place, telling the story of how I turned grit into grace. An alchemist, transforming hardships into healing. Layers I had forgotten, I started peeling. Like the lotus from the mud, my gifts became clear as they emerged. The desires of her heart are now being heard. I stand here as an example. I stand here as an example. There's nothing of this world you can't handle. Simply release the narrative of damsel. There's a version of self for you to pursue. You've never met them in flesh, and they only emerge after death. Open your heart to find it's all going to align as you accept it's time to shine and become a greater version of yourself. Poem. Thank you. It has been an honor and a pleasure to share space with you once again. I thank you if you have returned. I thank you if this is your first time. And I also thank you for any likes, comments, or shares. Until the next time, y'all. Love, light, and peace.